Record. All right, so let's see where we're at. I have read almost all your.
Stop.
Okay. I have read all your almost all of your research questions. Whoever it is, could you mute your mic or do something, because I can hear whatever background noise you have over there, all right? I'll give you some time to figure it out. Okay, let's see now. I have read most of your research questions, and they are almost ready for the final stage. There are several of you, for whatever reason, I think I made it pretty clear about when the assignments are due. I still haven't received your exercise from a few of you, and you know, that's not really a good strategy, especially at this stage. If things get delayed, bear in mind once again that the deadlines down in a month or so, that's not me, that's grad division, and they will hold you up, or they will not allow you to graduate on time. So it's very important that you try to meet all the, or not try, that you meet the deadlines, promptly. Okay, there's nothing you can do if you don't if you don't submit your stuff on time. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I'm having slight concerns about some. I mean, the research questions are legitimate. They are fine. They're okay. But some topics, they are quite popular, and there are many existing studies on the same topic or in the area. So the idea of the research gap, you really have to look at your literature review, make sure that you have a good coverage, and then think about, you can stay with the same research question. That's not a problem. The question is that how do you make your research question, or find the details in your research question that's unique to the existing literature, right? In that case, you'll be addressing the research gap, and that's important as part of your capstone paper. Is everybody hearing me all right? In terms of the volume, in terms of the sound. Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right, so let's see. If you look at Canvas, I have posted a few more things. Let's look at the PowerPoint that is titled Writing the Introduction Section, and that's what we're working on, right? The other thing is that I have created a worksheet for you. It's posted under Introduction Section Worksheet, right? And I would suggest that you, first of all, look at whatever you have done for your topic proposal, and see what else, what in that existing proposal that you have worked on, is there something that you can just cut and paste into the worksheet, right? The introductory topic. Because, if you have done the work, then there's no point in, repeating or reinventing the wheel, right? So look at your the topic proposal and see what you can use in the proposal and put it in the worksheet. The whole point of the worksheet is to be organized, because we all think we're organized. We all think, oh, I know where I'm going with this. But if you make a list in front of you, then it's a much more convenient effort, right? You have that worksheet in front of you and it's in a Word file, and in that case, just cut and paste. And then later on, when we actually work on the session, then you can just reorganize with whatever you have on the worksheet. That being said, any questions, anything I should know, anything I'm missing, any concerns, you can use the group chat forum to ask questions, anything. I'll give you a few seconds. No? Okay, so all we're going to do today is to look at the introduction section, or look at the PowerPoint, the introduction section. It should be Sandra. Okay, she's not here. She's looking for the Zoom, the link to the Zoom session, and it's the same. Can anybody help Sandra to send her the link? Because like if I have to look into my stuff to find the link to the session, I'll be using a lot of time, which would not be a good idea. Right. So yeah, I just want to go through the PowerPoint with you guys. The PowerPoint writing. Let's see. Okay. Research gap. No. You don't have to use another variable. You just have to find ways, either what you're measuring, right, or the agency or the county or the population that you're measuring. Sorry? So it's not so much about the instrument. It's not so much about the research question itself that could address the research gap. It could be that a specific population, for instance, when I supervise MSW students, a lot of them have, one student comes from, one student is Iranian. So I told him, well, in that case, think about how his project can address some issues within the Iranian community, because nobody has looked at that community, and so that could be one way to address the research gap. Or in my research, in my gang study or in my healthcare study, the ethnicity, right? A particular ethnic group or a specific ethnic community. In your case, a specific agency that has a different mission statement or a different function compared to existing literature. That's the way in, right? Well, we just want to see that, I mean, partly in the real world, if you're doing professional research, then the research gap is a bigger issue. But for our purpose, for our purpose of a capstone project, we just want to make sure that you have somewhat of a good coverage of the existing literature. Okay? So, think in terms of a uniqueness. It could be in the research population itself, or it could be the agency itself, or it could be the population that's served by the agency. There's something different, and that's where you can start thinking about the research gap. Okay. Any other questions? Just something that has not been done, right? And you can use the same research question, and you can use the same variables to replicate a study on a population that has not been examined, and that's one way to deal with it. Okay. What else? Okay, so now most of you, your research question, it's you're making progress and it's almost reaching that final form, right? So so it's a good time to start thinking about your introduction section, the entire introduction section. Okay? And I'm trying to make it very easy for you. So the worksheet, and also it's like a checklist. Okay. So and again, I highly recommend that you use the sample paper that I posted. Write like this person. Okay. It doesn't have, well, don't make it exactly the same, right? But in a way, obviously this one works. So, that's something to think about. Now, the introduction section, right? This person has 2.5 pages, and we're looking at from 3 to 5 pages. That should be adequate as introduction section. But it's not necessarily the length that is the basis of judging whether it's a good introduction section or not so good one. It's the content. And that's why the PowerPoint, if you look at the PowerPoint, once again, the PowerPoint is titled Writing the Introduction Section. And you'll see there are 5 major items or 5 major issues that you have to cover in the introduction section. A clear statement of the problem, that's what we've been doing so far, right? Trying to clarify and to make it as specific as possible. The research question, right? What problem are you trying to address? And then the second item is the purpose of the study, and then definition, and then significance of the investigation, and lastly, questions or hypotheses or hypothesis. And definitely, please use this list to outline, not necessarily in this order, right? But this order makes sense. You can mix it around a little bit, for the sake of variety. But whatever you do, just make sure that you include most, if not all, and I'll explain why, of these 5 items, okay? So write an outline, and the worksheet, that's your outline, right? Okay, so the first item is a clear statement of the problem. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the past week, right? You have to come up with that very simple research question. Does X cause Y? And of course, you have to elaborate that, okay? It's not just about it's not, it shouldn't be verbatim what you see in the exercise, but in that logic, in terms of causality, right? So clear statement of the problem, introduce your question or curiosity. And it could be a little bit more general because you are highlighting a topic, and you are helping your readers to gain focus, right? And so introduce your question or curiosity. What underlying? Well, because the whole point is to introduce what it is. What is it that you want to know or understand? How did you get interested in the topic? A little bit, right? Not too much. Don't spend a paragraph or 2 in explaining why you're interested. We just want to see the researcher being present in the writing, right? If your question has evolved since you have begun, describe the process. Don't worry too much about it. Briefly introduce your research topic. Research topic, not research question. It's always a good idea to talk about a research topic first and then narrow down, right? The thinking process that you've been going through, right? That's exactly what it is. In your case, right? Because in your case, you're not exactly looking at causality. So it could be addressed. What the language that you've been using, it's fine, and we'll work on your case a little bit differently. Okay. For the most part, most of your colleagues are looking at the XY model per se, and in other words, something involving causality. So in your case, it's comparing different use of executive order, and we'll look at that in some other way. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. But the but your introductory session should follow the same format. Okay. Right. So oh, and a reminder. Somehow the program require 10 of these Zoom session meetings. So we'll do one today and we'll do one tomorrow. Okay, and I promise you I'll keep them kind of short. I understand, like, 2 days in a row. Hey, it's not pleasant. So one thing, yeah. So after tonight, when we talk about the PowerPoint, go back and quickly just read the introductory section of the sample paper and see if you can identify which part the student did what. Okay? And then once again, think about how you can replicate that in your project. My cat is going kind of crazy, running around, zooming around, but because I don't usually talk this much in the apartment, so maybe, who knows, the cats. All right, yeah, briefly introduce your research topic. Start with your research topic, right? And then focus on the research question. And on the PowerPoint, the topic would be the language barrier and access to healthcare among Chinese and Latino immigrants in Los Angeles. Notice that there's I'm not mentioning causality in the research topic because it's a research topic. It's not a research question yet. And a couple of sentences to explain what that means, and because the next part you will expand on these different terms and different components in your research topic and research sentence. So in the first paragraph, there's no need to hurry to explain everything. So the second item, state your research question. Then you start mentioning, or then you state your research question. Does bilingual staffing at public health, does bilingual staffing at public health care facilities increase healthcare information access among recent immigrants? So clearly there's a causality involved, right? Some kind of increase or decrease, right? And then the research question, the cause is bilingual staffing at public healthcare facilities. And then the outcome is healthcare information access. And the research population is what? Chinese and Latino immigrants, right? Recent Chinese and Latino immigrants. So the reason sometimes I'm quote unquote picky and keep asking you to increase the level of specificity in your research question is that I need you to be absolutely clear what exactly you mean in each phrase or each term, right? Right, so clear statement of the problem. The next page or the next slide is the purpose of the study. Tell your reader, sorry, there's a typo. Tell the reader why there's a need for this study. We're not there yet. We're not full-blown yet. It's not yet significance of the study, but the purpose of the study. Say something about a population that's underserved, or the problem has not been properly addressed, or there's a need, right? And that's why you need to go back to your literature review. And remember, I mentioned that the research process is not necessarily linear, meaning you work on it and then sometimes you hit another part and then you go back and address a previous part, and then a lot of revisions. And sometimes it gets frustrating, but that's where you need to do a proper job. Okay, so cite relevant literature that calls for the need for research in this area, research gap, or demonstrates the lack of attention of the topic, research gap. In your own words, describe how you think this study will be useful, right? Useful for whom? And tomorrow I'll talk about the data and method section, and I'll talk about some preliminary stuff. And part of the thinking is to identify the stakeholders, right? So every project here has or involve stakeholder of one way or the other, right? So why do you think they should, or who are these stakeholders, and why do you think they should read your research? Even though we're just proposing the research, but the stakeholders, what should they know? What do they need to hold? What do they need to know in their decision making, right? And it's okay to be a little bit repetitive, meaning you use a study in your introduction. Yeah, fine. You mention it, you cite it, and then you look at it more in depth in the literature review, right? Describe the intended audience. Describe the intended audience for your research. The public, stakeholders. Yeah, stakeholders, right? In some ways, yeah, public. But most important in this process, it's who are your stakeholders and what do they not know? Or how are they not informed, and how you can better inform them. All right, next page. Definitions. What are you studying? Right? Now we take apart the research question and address the X and the Y, and then the research population. And that's the whole point behind the exercise that was due on Monday, right? So yeah, what are you studying, right? Provide clear and unambiguous definitions for everything in your research question. Particularly, a lot of your topics deal with quite technical issues, right? Some kind of legislation, some kind of a law, some kind of policy, some kind of a practice, some kind of an institutional setting, right? Yes, stakeholders, but some stakeholders might not be or some stakeholders might not understand the specificities within certain institutions, right? So a little bit more explanation. Important terms or concepts that are usually stated in the objectives, hypothesis, and the research questions. Again, subject specific and technical terms. People might not understand what that means, right? Corrections, population, the difference between the juvenile system and the adult system. Briefly, right? Briefly. Be sure to refer to authoritative sources in your definitions. Don't just make up stuff. You have to provide citations. Both X and Y. And you'll talk about this again in the literature review, more in depth. But for at this point in the introduction, just casually explain how X and Y are related. And once again, your research population, right? Are we talking about individuals in the program or receiving specific service in a kind of agency, city? And it would be quite likely that in this process, you'll come up with more than you need to put in the introduction section. So meaning you need to trim. And once again, I highly advise that you look at the paper, sample paper, and see at which point that you start trimming, right? And the introduction section is to set the boundary for your audience. Let them know what is going on within the topic of interest. Any questions so far? Okay, next one. The significance of the investigation. This is a fun part. Why is it fun? It's, well, you have to really get inside the heads of your readers, your stakeholders. Why should they care, right? What is the significance of this research question? Explain why this research is worth pursuing. You're convincing people like, hey, what I'm doing is actually worth your time. How? Why is this answer, why is answering this research question important? Now, there's a list of questions that I've included. So the scale of the problem. What do I mean by the scale of the problem? Well, how big is the problem, right? How many cases per year, right? Or for those of you who are working on issues involving recidivism, what is the percentage or the rate of recidivism, right? How many people are affected by it? It's always a good idea to mention money because people care about money, right? Your stakeholders, your readers, they care about money. How sorry, I'm looking at my crazy cat and she doesn't normally do this. And she has a tendency to swallow whatever and then get choked out and so. Right, so money involved. How much money are we talking about, right? Millions of dollars and billions of dollars, and that's a quick way to catch the attention, see what I mean? Catch the attention of your readers. Of course, credible sources only, right? But some of your topics, for instance, the corrections paper at the LA model, then money is not exactly the focal point of it, right? Even though, it's important, but it has more to do, or to think about outcome. What's the human cost instead of monetary cost? If the human cost outweighs the monetary cost, then you focus on the human cost as a way of illustrating the significance of the investigation, right? So money involved, number of individuals processed by the agency of service or service of interest, right? Success or failure rate. What has been doing wrong? Why have they been failing all this time, right? And of course, research gap, right? Number of grievances or lawsuits. Some of you are looking at institutional practices. Then, number of grievances per year, right? It doesn't have to be that specific agency, but think about equivalent agencies or similar settings and use those numbers as a way to illustrate the significance of your research question, right? You have to be a little bit flexible, but of course, make sure that whatever numbers in terms of individuals or money or whatever it is, make sure the numbers are legit, right? People or groups of people might benefit from reading your research, your stakeholders, or whom your stakeholders are serving, right? So on and so forth. So think about whom you're trying to appeal, right? Once again, the research gap, I already mentioned that. In this case, think about your audience. If your audience is not so much, like I said, a stakeholder, they might not be professionals in the field, right, in your field. So think about whom you're addressing. It could be government or NGO reports, journalistic sources. In the introduction section, you could use non-academic sources. But ideally, you limit non-academic sources in the introduction section, right? Government or NGO reports, particularly for numbers, right? Numbers in terms of numbers, money or cases. Journalistic sources, LA Times, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Right? But once again, must be credible. Right? Blogs, no. Or certain news agencies that are clearly biased, no. Finally, once again, most research proposals are to seek funding. Remember 620, the very beginning, I said the whole research thing, think of it as evaluation. And evaluation, it's a type of research, and mostly is about seeking funding, right? Why would you bother investing time and energy in coming up with a research proposal? That's because you need to secure funding. And so you have to explain what is at stake, right? What is in jeopardy if you don't do this research? And then it would be easy to justify why your research is worthwhile. The last part, question or hypothesis, if you wish, right? You can include the hypothesis in the very end of the introduction section. For those of you who are working on quantitative analysis involving secondary data and also some statistical analysis, right? So if you wish, you can include your research hypothesis in towards the end of the introduction section, but not necessary, not always. Sometimes like people mention that towards the end of the literature review or the beginning of the data and method section, after you introduce the literature, and then you talk about your hypothesis and what you're going to measure, because hypothesis is directly measurable, right? Okay. So those are the 5 major parts that you should include in your introduction section. Not necessarily in the exact order, but this order kind of makes sense. And yes, I included a worksheet, but in your final draft, don't just cut and paste. Make sure there's transition between paragraphs. You're communicating to a reader. You should make it sound like you're communicating to people instead of section, 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 right? And last but not least, the last slide. Whoever it is, could you mute your mic? We're catching a lot of background noise. Last but not least, a lot of students like to open their writing with very general statements. And most of them are kind of very vague generalizations that don't really serve any purpose, right? So avoid those meaningless and pointless sentences. It just it looks very undergrad and not very professional writing. Right? These are some examples. In today's America, or in today's world, in today's workplace, technology is very important, or whatever is very important. I know it's very important. That's why you're doing the research, right? Show me why it's important instead of just saying it. Every citizen wants to live a happy life, or every employee wants success in their career, blah, 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 blah. Those are not very, it's too much fluff. And in professional writing, you don't want to make the first impression one that is without substance, right? Right, so this is a very brief and hopefully succinct and useful way to think about your introduction section. It looks like most of your projects are already moving towards this direction. I'm thinking about the exercise that you just submitted, and then also your topic proposal. So, see how you can make use of what you have right now. And it's a matter of reorganizing and packaging what you have, and so that it kind of fits into this list of items in front of you, right? And there's no point in keeping on lecturing on this, or making it like too much talking. Instead, I think it's better that you really start to think about it and make use of the worksheet that's posted on Canvas as a start. Right? What else? And so, okay, tomorrow, when we do this again, let's take a look tomorrow at the introduction section of the sample paper. And let's see if you can identify which paragraph it's doing what, right? And see if how you can do something similar, right? Any questions? Somebody's on a treadmill. Any questions? Okay. I thought once you register, well, because from my end, I'm the instructor of the Zoom session. So once I provide the link, then or once you register for this session, I assume that you get the same links. So, but I'll post the link again. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, that hopefully should work. All right. What else? Right. You register and then, right, registration, right? So I'll look into it and see. And, you know, if you can't make the session, I always trans, I always post the meeting on Canvas as a YouTube file. So, well, no, Edwin, you have to go back and read my announcements. So your capstone paper is a research proposal, right? And what a research proposal, and what you have done last semester and the summer is a topic proposal. And what I'm trying to do is to help you guys to bridge or how to make your topic proposal into a research question for your research proposal, right? Which is ultimately your capstone project, all right? So your research question, it's, well, you can think of it as topic proposal, which address a research topic, and then a research question, and then a research question goes into a research proposal, which is also your capstone project, right? So that's the linkage between all these different terms. And what else? Okay, don't forget to read the introduction section of the sample paper. And then we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock tomorrow to look at it. The planning form is to the grad division. It's not to the program, right? I thought they briefed you about how this works, no? The planning form with the graduate division, because you have to file, you know, the planning form and ultimately the format and the paper, your final capstone project with the grad division, right? So remind me. Let's see. Today is the 11th, right? Remind me to talk about it again on the 25th. It's just a form, so it shouldn't take too long to fill it out and to get it uploaded. Everything is electronic, so it doesn't take that long to file um, the form. Okay. What else? Nothing? Okay, so once again, 6:30 tomorrow. 6:30, because some of your colleagues they get out kind of late, and then trust me, I prefer getting it done early. Well, the intro, the exercise or the research question exercise was due yesterday, but the intro, the draft for the introduction section is, yes, it's the 20th of September, right? Right. So yeah, you have a little bit more than a week, 9 days, to work on the introduction section. And that's why it's a good idea to get started with the section using the worksheet. And once again, it's not so much like working everything from the ground up. You have a lot in your topic proposals that you can use in the introduction section, right? So if I were you, I would really go back to your even some citations, right? One or two most important citations. It's always a good idea to have citations in every section, but go back to your research topic proposals and find 2 or 3 citations that you think are so important that you must include in the introduction section. Right? Is that clear? Yeah? Okay. What else? Yeah, so definitely go back and read your own topic proposals and then find those citations. They don't have names. They're cats. Um, I have very mean jokes, but they're jokes. Anyways, irrelevant. For tomorrow, it's just 3 pages, but take a few minutes to go through the sample paper, the introduction section, and see whether you can get a sense of which section it's for what purpose. Okay. All right. All righty. Then yeah. Yeah. That's all I've got for today. Okay. Well, have a good evening, and I'll see you in less than 24 hours. Yeah. Hold on. Well, that's the whole point of the research question exercise that we've been doing this week, right? Uh, yeah, let's hold on. No. It's a process of evolution. The research question, the research topic gains focus and clarity to become the research question, and then it becomes the basis of the capstone project, right? Again, please go back to my one of my announcements. I tried to explain the process from topic to research question to the capstone project, which is the research proposal, right? Some of these terms are confusing. I understand why you might have misunderstandings, but you really have to read the announcement to understand how one thing leads to another, leads to another. Okay. What else? Okay, I'll be online about the same time tomorrow, about 6:28, and then hopefully it doesn't take too long tomorrow. All right. Have a good evening. Yeah. For those who haven't been catching up, missing work, please make sure that you go back to Canvas because everything is on Canvas to find out what you have been missing, and then try to catch up because that I'm supervising 26 projects, and it's not possible to keep track of all your work. You will have to be responsible for the process, right? Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.